Okay, by me it's Mishnah Yud Beis. It's probably Yudal or Tesvav. Rabbi Yishmael Omer. Rabbi Yishmael says, Perkei Gimel Mishnah Yud Beis. Havikal l'rosh Tezayin. Minyanim. Rabbi Yishmael Omer, Havikal l'rosh. One should be light when it comes to the head. What does that mean? We'll see. Be'ezer Hashem. V'noyach l'sishchoiris. And easy with the tishchoiris. Makabel is called Adam b'simcha. And one should receive every person b'simcha with happiness. Says the Rabbeinu Yonah. What does it mean? Havikal l'rosh. Sheyakla atzma l'mishu rosh. V'adon. A person should hold himself lower, not make light of himself in the sense of like tzanus and making jokes, but a person should hold himself not so high when he's in chashuv company, when he's in the presence of an ish chashuv. He shouldn't hold himself to be so chashuv himself. Like the pasuk says in Mishlei, al tishad lifnei melech v'makom gedolim al tamud. Shlo yachshav oischal adam gadol v'hakal atzimcha lefanav la'atzos chafatzov l'hashlim tzracha. So when one is in the company of a chashuv person, one himself shouldn't act so chashuv. He should just try to do what the person wants him to do and fulfill what the person, l'hashlim tzracha, whatever he needs, I'll take care of. You shouldn't hold yourself, I'm a chashuv person, when someone else chashuv is there. A person should have a certain humbleness and be machniya to that person. So that is havikal l'rosh. Noyach l'sishchoiris. So the Rabbeinu Yonah, there's two ways to understand sishchoiris. One is like a ruler. A shachvar it's called. A ruler. So it says the Rabbeinu Yonah, a person should not be making himself in front of him too much. I shouldn't lower myself in front of him. This is not an adam chashuv. It's a person who has control. There are certain people that are not chashuv. Be'etzim, they're not really chashuv people, but they have a certain amount of authority over others. So how do I deal with such a person? Who himself, if it wasn't for his position, he wouldn't really be so chashuv, but he has the position. So how do we deal with such people? It says the Rabbeinu Yonah, don't be making yourself so much like by the person who's objectively, intrinsically chashuv. Don't do that, because he doesn't deserve it really. But also a person should not treat him, shouldn't belittle him. In other words, one has to respect the position. Even if a person isn't deserving of the position, there's a certain respect a person has to have for the position. So a Rosh Yeshiva, mamash a chashuv a person, you have to machni yourself. A person who has a position of authority, of power, of chashivas, who doesn't deserve it, so you have to have respect for the position. The position itself demands respect, but you don't have to have the same amount of respect that you have for the person who's bad and chashuv. That's what the Rabbeinu Yonah says. There is a Rambam on this also. Rambam says, yeah, so the Rambam says that he's learning that Sashcheris is referring to like a child, a young person. And the Rambam says a person shouldn't lower himself and play around too much. A person should not be megageya. In other words, when a person is very relevant to a parent or to a teacher, to a Rabbi, when a person is dealing with young children, you shouldn't come down to their level too much and roll around with them and play with them and there's a certain level of chashivas that a person has to have when he's dealing with a person who's lower than him. If you spiel too much, if you joke around too much, so then you lose your position of authority. So when someone's more chashiv than you have to lower yourself. When you're in a position of authority, vis-a-vis someone else, then you shouldn't lower yourself too much. So it's now we started, last year we had Mishnayos for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. You remember coming in sometimes, right? It was very difficult, right? So we stopped it because they're not the age. So this year we started again with the 5th grade. In the beginning, it's always easy because they're scared and they're uncomfortable. But once they get more comfortable, so then they start to act up. So I made a mistake. We did it twice. The second time, so I give them a shiur for 10 minutes, and then they chaz Mishnah themselves for 10 minutes, and they have snow cones for 10 minutes. So it's a big hit, right? So the second time, I made a joke. And then like 5 minutes into it, and that was lost. After the whole like ambiance, the whole atmosphere changed, and I saw it was a 7-minute shiur instead of a 10-minute shiur, and it was 13 minutes of chavrusa, and then they had the snow cones, right? So I realized it's mamash this mission, this is Rambam, that Listen, they're coming after school to learn. That is chashuv. So it can't be the same level of seriousness that school is. But on the other hand, if I joke around, then you lose. If I'm megageh too much, if I'm mekil to the sashchoiris, if I'm noyach, too noyach to the sashchoiris, so then you lose the whole thing. So a person has to, when a child is chutzpahdik to an adult, it's on some level the adult's fault for not acting like an adult. Unless the kid is something wrong. But a regular, normal, healthy kid, right? If they're chutzpahdik, or they're doing the wrong, it's, well, if I acted myself as a mechubadik person, they would chap that, they would realize that, they wouldn't act that way. So that's what this mission is telling us, a very important yisoid, Dafir Bizman Hazeh. The mission of Yirzois finishes off, V'havi Makabel is called Adam B'simcha. A person should receive, that self-explanatory, that always receive every person who comes in B'simcha, with a happy face, and it changes the mood in a tremendous way when a person does that.
Is that different than a saber upon the Avos?
Yeah, it's interesting. Simcha is not, I'll tell you what it doesn't mean, right? It does not mean to be a makabel person with a l'chaim, right? I mean, simcha doesn't mean with like a kalas roish stick, a joke. Hey, you want a shot? That's not what simcha means. Simcha is an internal, like a kind of, simcha is not like someone who's the life of the party, yelling and happy. Simcha is, it's an internal contentment, right? So it could be seven part of Yafas is Benogay, the guy who I'm talking to, right? Like the mindset with Rabbi Salanter, the guy was walking around looking all serious on Yom Kippur and or Rosh Hashanah, and Rabbi Salanter said to him, "Why am I guilty for your Eimas Hadin? I mean, you don't see your face, I see your face. If you're walking around all serious and not smiling, so why do I have to suffer because of your fear of judgment?" So the second part of Miyafis is how I physically am externally towards the other person. Simcha, it's interesting, I have an obligation, maybe it's the chiddush that Dr. Magic is bringing out, I have an obligation to myself be besimcha, because that comes out when I meet someone. If I'm in a bad mood, if something happened, that whatever, and I come into shul, and I'm not greeting a person, so that it's not fair to the other person. So I have an obligation to work myself out internally, and be besimcha, so I can greet a person in the proper way. Same part of the office is externally, and besimcha is internally. After that's the chiluk. You agree, Dr. Mazur?
Sounds good to me.
Excellent. Just whenever on camera. Okay. Next Mishnah, Rabbi Kiva says, "S'choik v'kalus roish margilin erva." So joking around kalus roish, a person jokes around too much. Okay, you could joke around, but to joke around too much, s'choik, like playing and a kalus roish and a lightheadedness brings to erva. That's what the Mishnah says. The Rabbeinu says, "What's lo misha s'choik v'divrei sicha b'teila." Stam shmizing, just the shmooze, for no reason, in kalus roish, with kalus roish brings to erva, aval kovid roish v'yirahim siagla arayis. Shkol zois Mishnah, this yagim edaberes. This Mishnah is talking about how I guard myself from doing averis. If I take, whatever I take seriously, I always put up fences to guard myself. I shouldn't come to do the thing I don't want to do. So, says that the Mishnah, Rabbeinu explains that a person has to have a certain level of seriousness always throughout life. It doesn't mean you can't have a good time. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy yourself at a wedding or the Shabbos Suda, but it has to always be a certain level of kovid roish, of seriousness, and that is a siag for erva. A roish happens when the boundaries fall down. There's too much joking around and too much of a sicha b'teil. That's number one. What is the siag for Torah? How do we protect the Torah? Zok the Mishnah Mesoris siag l'Torah. The tradition is the fence for the Torah. So the Rabbeinu approaches that in a very specific way. He says that the Torah shebechsav cannot exist without Torah shebal peh. Right? There's Kri and Ksiv, and the way we preserve the Torah shebechsav is through the Torah shebal peh. So there's someone who asked me questions, like intellectual questions, like on Chumash. He has good questions, right? But sometimes, like we were discussing yesterday, right? Shver, the brothers in Yosef, right? It's a difficult parsha, right? The brothers were tzaddikim. They were all tzaddikim, right? But they wanted to kill their brother, and they sold him to slavery, and they lied to their father, right? And they dipped so those are tzaddikim. So the guy was very bothered by. So I said, you have to go through Chazal say that, they had a din Torah, and Akash Baruch Hu was involved, and Zeroidif, and they weren't really eating Evim Menachai, and it was a very complicated story, and he wasn't being macabre, but I said, it's illegitimate. You cannot learn Torah Shebechsav without Torah Shebal Peh. then I'm not interested in answering your questions or even hearing your questions. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. I said it in a nicer way. That I'm not interested in having a discussion about the Pasha Pshat and the Chumash with Al Chazal. Al Chazal, there is no Chumash, there is no V'zavachta mi b'korecha, Shech. How do you Shech? Doesn't say a Shech. Keep Shabbos. All we have is one malacha. It's a variation of Chumash and That's all we have. You can't light a fire. To approach Torah Shebachsav without Torah Sheba'al Peh, well, there is no Torah Shebachsav. It's an illegitimate conversation. So it could be also that's what the Mishnah means. The Messiah's, the Siyag for Torah is Messiah's tradition, and it's people who try to chip away at the tradition that that end up being Perkei in the Torah.
Yeah.
Someone
Any movement that's trying to do that has completely failed.
Correct. And that's always where they attack first. They always attack first. And there's someone asked me the following question: where do we see that Tehillim is Tefillah? Right? Where does it Tehillim is Tefillah? So what's the shot in that question? This person was at a Shiur where someone told them that people say, when a person's sick, we say Tehillim. That's what we do. So the person just why don't you just say Sefer Shoifim, say Sefer Yeshua? Well, what do you mean? You're saying Tehillim when a person's sick. Do a mitzvah, learn Torah, but Sefer Tehillim, like what's the source that is something you do be'ez tzara? Say Nishlei. Why don't you just say Psukim and Nach? Like, I don't understand. That's what the person said. So this person was a Yerushalayim an Erechiyid, was bothered. Why what's the marker that Tehillim is Tefillah? So my gut reaction, which I think is correct, is because that's what my mother does. That's what my grandmother does. I mean, every Klal Yisrael, whenever be'ez tzara, we say Tehillim. That's what we do. That's the answer. So I asked my wife, and she gave the same answer. I asked the Chav and the Bikoil, they gave the same. They're all like, what kind of question is that? We have to find Mamari Chazal, Tehillim. The fact that it's a ganz Klal Yisrael is done, the Doris of generations, that's the answer, right? So it's the type of question that, Al Pi Halacha, there's no Sif in Shulchan Aruch that says that Tehillim is Tefillah. So therefore, I'm going to do mitzvahs instead. It's the Chashim, it's also good to do mitzvahs. But that's this Mishnah. Siyag for Torah is the Messiah. Without the Messiah, without tradition, so we can really chip away the entire religion. Siyag, Maisris is Siyag L'Oisher. If a person wants to become wealthy, what's the secret, right? What's the sgula to become wealthy? Say Parshas Ketores, which is true, but the Mishnah says, Maisris is Siyag L'Oisher. A person wants to become rich, wants to protect his wealth, give tzedakah. And the Perkei explains, the person's going to think, I made $1,000, if you have 100 away, how's that going to work? The Torah promises us that it does work, and that's actually one of the places where one is allowed to test HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He brings the Gemara, the Chazal, that says, Rabbi Yochanan says, Aser b'shvil shetis asher. Take Meiser, give Meiser, in order that you become rich. V'chimutu l'nasis, more on Tainus. V'chimutu l'nasis, could you test Hashem? L'yisanas Hashem l'keh, you can't test Hashem. Says the Gemara, chutz mizu. Rabbi says, chutz mizu, this is one exception. A person can give stock and say, Hashem, I want to see if this is going to work. I'm going to test you to see if by me giving Meiser, I'm going to protect my wealth, I'm going to increase my wealth. I want to suggest it to do that. Nedarim siyag l'precious. Nedarim is a siyag l'precious. So, what's precious? Precious is like this. A person can be, and this is less than a novel B'Rishus HaTorah. A novel B'Rishus HaTorah is a person who is eating the entire day, but he makes sure to always make a bracha Rishon and a bracha Achronim. So is he a tzaddik? He's following every halach in Shulchan Aruch, but he's not a tzaddik because he's taking advantage. Precious is less than that. It's a person who's indulging in taivas olam hazeh, not to the point that he's a novel, that he's like a loathful person, but the more a person involves himself in gashmis that he does not really need, so the less he's open to receive ruchnis. Chazal tells us. And as much as you want Torah to come into, you have to daven that the food shouldn't come into, right? So we don't starve ourselves, but overindulgence in gashmias definitely does not help the ruchnis. It hinders the ruchnis. So precious is where a person is makadosh himself b'mutaloi, things that are mutter, but I feel that I don't really need this, and therefore I hold myself back. Now, a person who's in control of himself, he can do that without any external stimuli. He can hold himself back from indulging in times he doesn't need. A person who's on a lower level, which I think is I'm on, I think we all are, but I definitely am on this level. A person must make nedarim in order to make sure he doesn't do that. In order to make sure that he's not indulging, he makes a neder. Now, the Rabbeinu says we don't make nedarim today. Everything is bli neder, but there has to be on our level a resolution. So if a person has a taivas achila, he has to make a resolution. I'm only going to have one piece of challah at the Shabbos Suda and one piece of chicken. Otherwise, he'll have 5 pieces of challah and 3 pieces of chicken and 4 pieces of kugel. And he comes out not feeling too good and he can't come alone that night. Right? So a person has to make nidarim, and nidarim is a siag for precious. So if a person wants to be a parish, he realizes that, you know what, I'm overindulging in sleep, in eating, whatever it might be. He has to make a neder. He has to make a conscious decision, not a halachic neder, that we don't do today. He has to make a conscious decision that, okay, this is how I'm going to limit my indulgence in this taiva. And that's the siag for precious.
If after the person eats too much, he doesn't feel well, then it's because he doesn't feel well that he will eat less. It's not because of precious, it's because it's a physical problem.
Right.
So therefore he should stop even before then.
Correct. And then the next time he should think to himself that I ate this much last time and it was too much for me, so now I'm going to eat half that. I'm going to eat 3/4, whatever it might be. But it's a decision, you have to decide the night before what time you're getting up in the morning. Right? That's neder means, for our purposes, a resolution. The person makes a resolution, a conscious decision that I'm overindulging. The first step is to analyze. I have to take stock of, okay, how was last week? What are the different things I indulged in? And how did it go? And then this week make a conscious decision how I'm going to change it. But that's the only way to grow. It's not just to go weiter and then b'shas ma'aseh try to do the right thing. To map out beforehand, what a neder is mapping out beforehand what I don't want to do and making a resolution I'm not going to do that. And that's the way a person gets to the level of being a parish. And siag v'chachma shtika. Last one, very important. Siag v'chachma shtika. Zok Rabbeinu Yonah. Keitzad. She'enu nichnas l'toich divrei chaveiroi. A person is not cut off his friend. Someone is talking, unless the guy is going on and on and on. But usually, someone's talking. You don't cut him off in the middle of a statement. That's called shtika. That's called shtika. And something he doesn't know, he says, I don't know. I didn't hear that. I don't know. Doesn't try to say, maybe this. I'm not sure. No, we always say, it could be this the answer, but I'm not sure. No, just say you don't know. Don't say you're not sure. Just say you don't know. And that's the siag v'shtika. Even though it's not mamash shtika, he says that type of humility is a siag v'chachma. You listening to other people. And I think the pasuk shot in the Mishnah is listening to someone else. People have a lot to offer, right? So when I listen to what someone else has to say, that is my siag v'chachma. Okay, we'll hold here.